All right, everyone. Welcome to Real Women Real Estate, episode 31. My name is Ebony.
Whoop, whoop. This
Whoop,
is
whoop.
Courtney.
I'm Kimberly.
Yes, whoop, whoop, yes. We forgot about the whoop whoops, guys, but it's always a celebration. It's always a good time here at Real Women Real Estate, and we're just really happy to be with you guys. As you can see, it's just us three today. We have a very special episode of just catching everyone up with what we've been up to since we started back in, when did we start, guys?
February.
February, boo.
Oh my gosh, what has 2020 done to me? Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's just us three today. So we wanted to check in with everyone, let everyone know what we've been up to. And hopefully you guys can learn from what we have been through over the last few months. But as always, we have a very special quote every episode. And this week's quote is going to be, your very existence is wrapped up in the things you need to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. And that is by the Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, King.
Rest in peace.
So, as I said before, this week's episode is really just to catch up. We've been at it. We have 31 episodes. We're a little bit over 1,000 followers on Instagram, and time is flying. So this is just going to be a yardstick for us to, see how far we've come in such a short amount of time. So we're going to just share some of our testimonials. And I think, Courtney, you have some very special questions for us, right?
I do.
Okay.
I do. It's a surprise.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I'm gonna hand that over to you.
You're handing it over to me?
Yes, so you can ask the questions.
Oh, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna have you guys relish in it until the end, and I'm gonna save it. The very special questions. But
very special questions.
There's some doubles on it. There's layers to it. So the first thing, though, that I want to talk about is, yes, like you said, we've been doing this since February, and there's been some changes. There's been some changes since we started the podcast, and, COVID has brought many changes in our lives, but we've continued to invest. We've continued to, just try to increase our wealth and try to increase our knowledge, as well as share that with the audience. And so I want to do that and start with Kimberly, because when she but when we first started this podcast journey, she was in the process of a flip and did not want to talk about the flip. It was like, no, I'm not speaking on it. And so now that the flip is over, I'd like to dive into, walk us through this flip, walk us through the process.
We talked about it.
We talked about it high level.
There's levels to this, Kim. There's levels to it. There's levels to this game.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about this flip. So talk about
the location we didn't choose, it chose us.
I like it, Kim.
No, Ebony did that. That's all Ebony. So we just.
So how'd you guys find it?
Ebs.
Oh, so I guess so this was actually a referral.
Yeah.
It came to us from my brother. Shout out to Darius. He just so happened to be talking to one of my mom's neighbors, and the young guy mentioned that his parents had passed away and that he basically didn't know what was going to happen to his home. He was 19 years old and the brother was 16 years old. So my brother was like, oh, my sister does real estate investing, and she can help you. And so he gave me the information, and I was like, Kim, we have this opportunity out in Royce City. And I think either that night or the next night, Kim and I were out at the house, taking a look at the house and meeting with the young man. And it did not start off as a flip.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of goes into creative financing, or, or have how previous guests have said before, making a deal work, right? Because we had this deal, we had planned to originally wholesale it. But it wasn't going to work out in the best interest for anybody. If we would have wholesaled it, then obviously the investor that got it was going to be making the most money. And then the boys who had just lost their parents were going to be walking away with a very small piece of the pie. So we kind of wanted to be fair to them, be fair to us, you know, because if not, it was just too much money that was sitting on the table that could be made if we did not wholesale it. But we did try to wholesale it first. It just didn't happen that way. And then we ended up saying, you know what, we'll flip it ourselves. So that's what happened. That became our flip, and there we are.
So the one stigma on flips is that, you know, you spend so much time on the flip, and in the back end, it's really not as lucrative as it sounds. You know, that's the stigma to flips. Can you guys walk me through the team and the process and why this, you know, ended up working for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, the numbers obviously with flips, there's always, or any kind of renovations on anything, you know, you're going to run into some issues. And that's surprising, because I feel like a lot of times people think there's so much money to be made, and in flips, it's one or the other. They're like, oh, you're not going to make enough money, or it's not going to be made even the amount of money that you make. It took too long to make it, etc. So I think there's two ends of the spectrum.
I think you're right. I think the people that really don't understand flipping do assume that there's just this big pie in the sky.
Yeah, like
no,
you about to get $80,000.
Yeah, you're right about that. It doesn't
work like that. Average flips right now, especially during COVID, especially with the ARV, inventory is tight. You know, I just was with some investors on another call last week, and average right now, at least in Dallas, is, you know, 20 to 30,000 to walk out of. And that is lower than what a lot of investors would want. Like, a lot of times investors will turn up their heads. Now, I will take the 20 to 30,000. Don't get me twisted. If anybody has any deals that they want to sell, let me know. But a lot of times people are like, oh no, I don't want to make less than 40. But because inventory is so tight right now because of COVID and not having enough foreclosures out there, then yeah, it's tight. So people are going to take the 20 and 30,000. I always will. Let's be clear. But anyway, so we did the numbers on it. We went into it with what we thought our budget. We stayed pretty close to budget. The difference is I set a budget for the budget, and I wanted to really stay within that budget that I set, and we went well above that. So we did spend all of our budget, which is way more than I anticipated. So we still came out with a good sizable profit. It was more so the budget that ate into that. And honestly, like you said, there's so many things that go into flips. You never know what's going to happen. And for us, we ended up in contract maybe 3 or 4 times. The first one, we signed a contract. The very next day, they were like, oh, no. Oh, the roof is, they sent a drone to go look at
about that. What do you mean you signed a contract?
We got in contract with, a buyer. We got a buyer.
Okay.
And they were ready to go. We signed the paperwork. The very next day they canceled before we even got earnest money. That was the first one. Then we put a brand new roof on through insurance, which was completely covered. Thank goodness. And then came back, we got another offer. And then we had a couple of other ones, and more so it was whether we were going to fix foundation, right? It wasn't bad foundation, but the second, we had 3 contracts. The second contract, they wanted us to fix it before. Well, once you have been well versed enough in flips to know that you're not going to do any major changes after you've already finished the flip, you're either going to take this money we're going to give you because we agreed to give them money, or you're going to, to fix it yourself, or we're going to cancel the contract. We ended up canceling the contract because we're not going to go and fix some foundation work that we didn't even know existed prior to the flip because you want this done before closing. Long story short, we ended up losing a little bit of money on the foundation, but it worked out well because of the fact that the owners who did buy the house were willing to just take the money to fix it themselves. So
what's your biggest takeaway? Like what'd you learn from this flip? Or Ebony, I saw you kind of chiming in. Were you about to say something?
Yeah, there were some other things outside, like the condition of the house, that ended up kind of holding up the deal. Yeah, and luckily, like, our experience with other things kind of helped. Like the fact that I'm familiar with real estate law, I was able to kind of help overcome some really substantial roadblocks.
Oh, that's right. Let's talk about that.
What do you mean substantial roadblocks? What do you mean?
So people
I didn't know that you were real. First of all, shout out to you because I didn't know that you were well-versed in the real estate law.
Yeah, I literally used to work for not only a real estate law firm that handled like contracts and funding for real estate transactions, but I also worked in foreclosure law. So I did like the timeline to push the property to foreclosure on behalf of the bank. And the the way that helped was that we had gotten right to the finish line, and the title for the new buyer, this last transaction, the title wasn't clear. And so we had to get some guardianship information squared away for the 17-year-old who was about to turn 18,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So talk about what that means, Ebony, though. So not having clear title.
Yes. So anytime the title is not clear, your transaction can't go through. Somebody can come back and stake claim in the property. So essentially what would have happened had we gone through with just, signing the paperwork or doing a loophole, the young man could have come back, a year or 2 or 3 later and said, you guys sold this property without my permission. And there's no paperwork that we have as sellers to prove that we did sign with his permission, even though it was a handshake deal. And like, we understood we were working with the older brother, the younger brother also had a claim. And unfortunately, the family hadn't gone through the proper channels to, with any kind of probate or anything like that, to establish what was going to happen. There was no will for the property. And so we had to basically race against the clock in the middle of COVID to find an attorney, track down which county had jurisdiction, and to get all the paperwork done. And I'm not gonna lie, I was stressed. It was very stressful.
And it's also stressful because it was something that when we did the affidavit of heirship, which we had to do for this property because the original owners had passed away. So and there was no will. So let's start there. People, have your wills ready.
Have your will together.
But because there was no real will, we had to do an affidavit of heirship, and we were not told by the first title company that will needed to be signed. I mean, that the affidavit of heirship, it had to be done then. We had the oldest brother sign because he was legal, and we thought that was okay, when apparently both of them needed to be able to sign, and the older brother, they accepted it, and technically it wasn't, the second title company, they basically said technically this affidavit of heirship, even though it was filed, everything had already been notarized, nobody caught it until the last title company. They're like, well, technically this could be voided because he's not of age to have, he's not represented on this affidavit of heirship. He's on there, but he didn't sign because he wasn't of age. His brother did. And no one told us that he had to. So it's a fluke. It's one of those things that we wouldn't have known this, right? We didn't know. I don't know how many people would have known this ahead of time, but we know that some deals just happen where you learn something new on every deal. And this is one that we'll probably never get a deal like this again, needing all of this. But the fact that it happened, I know that if I saw it again, I would know exactly what to do with it.
Yeah.
Because it was such a big headache, and we're on the crunch line, and we're like, is this stuff going to come back on time? And then the attorney at the end made up a number that she thought the boys were getting, and that was an issue because then she wouldn't sign for him because she said it wasn't the same number that she told the judge that he was getting, but we didn't even tell her a number. So it was just all over the place. She made up her own number and assumed how much he was getting off the sale of the house, not knowing how much he still owed on the house. So
there was definitely some confusion there, but then this is also where like having a solid team is important.
Yes.
And like having a good relationship with your sellers, because the seller we were working with, he's a teenager, a young adult. He lost interest real quick. And so we were able to, we basically had to make contacts throughout the family to help push things along. And I call Kim the follow-up queen. You don't want to be on Kim's short list of owing her something that she needs in order to get the job done, because she's going to come for that follow-up. And so it was really, that last little bit was really we got to get it. We got to push it through. And luckily the family was really cooperative, you know, to get it done. And I mean, we got it done. We was going to get done regardless, but it was,
I love that.
And
it was something that people don't talk about.
Yeah, and it's not a cut and dry, you're gonna fix this house and sell it and boom. Especially with this one being, you know, probate, and we getting it before probate. I don't think, you know, when you go into it and it's your first flip or whatever, I think people need to understand that you need to have a cushion for not only your time, but your money. You know, and I know some of our other investors have talked about this previously, guests have talked about this, but you need to have a cushion on your time and your money, because again, like you said, Courtney, is it worth doing it? If it's taking 6 months to get it done, you know, is the money worth it? At the end of the day, you learned a lot. So yes, it was worth it. It didn't take us 6 months. It was a little less than that, but COVID did happen. So we blame that too. But it did take us some time to get through it. And we did learn an extreme amount of information with that. And I think people don't know that when you go into a flip, you need to be mindful of, like you said, your time, and you have to have a strong team. We cannot stress that. More important than anything, like Courtney, you got to have a good realtor. You've got to have someone on your team. You've got to have a good title company. You've got to have someone well versed in law, attorney, you know, so that we can know what's going on. You know, you just need to have a really good team and know where to pull people's strengths from.
Can I ask you guys to break down why probate process and pre-probate, why that's important, and maybe kind of just go to the process of what probate is, just in case somebody is going through that or may feel like that's on the horizon?
Yeah, like your paperwork is so important. And basically when you die, your assets don't die with you. I think a lot of people don't really think about the fact that they're not going to live forever. You know, it's something we don't want to really think about, but especially if you have children, you need to put something down on a piece of paper about what your wishes are. Who's going to take care of your children? What's going to happen with your house? Who's going to, you know, who gets what? Because if you leave it up to the state, to the government, they'll take care of it, but there's a timeline attached to it that could slow things up. And we see it a lot. Like when I'm reaching out to families distressed by home buyers, like a lot of them, somebody has passed and the adult children don't know what to do with the property. Emotions get involved when really there just needs to be, you know, pre-directed wishes there. It just makes life a lot easier. I think the other thing is that I think even in this situation, even after the parents had passed, which is very rare that both parents would pass in the same year, but even after the parents passed, it almost seemed like nobody in the family wanted to deal with the business aspect of what was going to happen with the property. And, you know, I think there was a moment I was like, well, Kim, like, what's going to like, surely they did guardianship. And she was like, no, probably not. Like, who wants to have that conversation, right? Who wants to deal with that? And so, you know, I think to answer your question, I think that's why, like, people don't really want to think about what's going to happen when they die, but it's probably the most important thing. Like, if you're working to build generational wealth, if you're working, you know, to make sure that you and your family are secure, part of that security is making sure that if something happens to you, that your children aren't left with nothing, or, you know, your house doesn't go into foreclosure because nobody knows what you wanted to do with the house,
or left not knowing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we talked about that well, especially with generational wealth. You can't teach if your kids don't know how to run the business, then that's not generational wealth, because they're not going to know what to do with it. If they don't know how to take care of the house, they're not going to know what to do with it. And granted, this was an isolated situation because they are young. And I know at 17, 18, and 19, I wouldn't even know how to pay my mom's, you know, mortgage. I wouldn't know any of her mortgage information. Even now, I don't know my mom's mortgage information. So those are things that, you know, that's an isolated situation. But when you think about it as parents, and we're talking about, we want to leave generational wealth to our kids, these are things that we should be possibly letting our kids know. What if something happens to me, here's the information that we have, or making sure that they're covered in the will so that they don't even have to worry about it, or making sure they know, their adult kids know how to run their businesses.
Yeah. And I will say kudos to the sellers, to the young men. That's a lot to go through. And the oldest one, he stepped up, to try to help us get what we needed in the midst of his grieving. Because I think when he first reached out to us, his mom hadn't even been, she hadn't even passed for like a whole month and a half. Like, it wasn't a long time. So kudos to that, but you don't want your children to have to go through that. You really don't.
Yeah, no, I think that's key. So just to kind of summarize what you guys are saying, probate is a process. It's a legal process that happens in lieu of the will, and it basically defines the assets of that deceased person. And if those things aren't readily available, then you've got a mess on your hands and something to figure out, especially when you have people that are very hungry and they have these lists and things like that. It can go really wrong, really bad. So just shout out to you guys, because you said, hey, you know what, no flip, because the boys aren't going to be taken care of. You weren't just sharks coming in the water. You really were coming in a situation trying to help. So I think that's key. And so with that, just wanted to talk, I know, Eboney, you've been kind of talking about your role in the flip and things like that, but we'll get to you in a second, because I just thought of something, that one more thing with Kimberly and her current deal, but I wanted to talk to you, Eboney. So kind of stay in the realm of what has transformed for you from the start of this podcast to right now. But Kim, current deal, just talk about it, because this is important, because when you first started, you said, I'm not really into buy and hold. I'm really into, flips right now. And that's just where I'm at. So talk about this current deal. What is it? Is it a buy and hold, or is it a flip?
It's a buy and hold, but I did say in the beginning that I wanted to do an owner finance deal, and this is that deal. So I am going down the list of things that I said that I want finance deal, and that's what we're working towards. So it's a buy and hold in the sense that it's not a rental. So I don't want to be a landlord, but I have no problems owner financing it out. And that's
so talk about that. Can you talk about the details of this owner finance and what you want to accomplish?
Yeah. So with owner finance, it's basically like a lease to own. You put a down payment. Basically, we become the bank, right? So this is for a lot of people, entrepreneurs, people who cannot normally get a loan with the bank to buy a home outright is who do owner finance, right? So these might be people who make money cash, hairdressers, or entrepreneurs, period. So my first thing would be barbers, hair salons, any kind of entrepreneur. They can't necessarily, because you've written off so much, you've got the money for a house, but you don't have per se the debt to income ratio on paper for the house, or you don't have the credit for the house. Whatever the case is, this is a way to get a property without having to go through the bank. Same procedures, everything is done through, we have an attorney that's going to be drawing up our paperwork. Shout out to Justin Moore. He's going to be the attorney that's drawing up our owner finance deal. We still have everything done the same way. Everything can get escrow just like with a normal deal. You have an interest rate, you have a down payment, and you have a set term, amount. Or date. So this one is going to be 30 years, 8%, and 15% down. And that's where we are. It's a house that we're buying. We close next week on a property in Houston, and that's where we are right now.
So talk about so congratulations on your close of this, building wealth.
Yes.
And just talk about how you found this home, how you found the deal.
So one of our previous guests, Tamon Williams, helped me find this house. It was actually a weekend I was in Houston. We went and saw maybe 5 houses, and I was sold off it was the first house we went to. It was either first, maybe the second. Either way, we saw maybe 5 houses, and I was sold. It's over where I grew up, so off of Scott Street, Scott and OST. So I know the area very well. We knew that it would probably owner finance well over there. And if not, we knew that we could definitely get in renters, worst case scenario. But it was definitely something. I walked in, I love the house, I love the area, and it's right across from a school. And it was just perfect. it just worked out.
Was
and
this home off market?
No, it was on, but it had been sitting a while. And then it had been the original investor already fixed it up. So this is not one that we had to flip. This is actually one that was already done. And it was just in a good price range. Like, it's a really good, the cost of the house was really good. So it was something that we could afford to do. And we were just like, let's go for it.
I love that. So you guys kind of learned everything that you guys kind of took from just the experiences and the team.
And people on the podcast. Yeah. Like just listening to other people talk about it, especially when Chris was talking about how he owner financed his businesses and how he did that and got that going in Houston. And it was already something that was on my list to do. So it just kind of catapulted, listening to some of our guests, really. Like listening to our own podcast has helped me get to where we are right now with this.
How dope is that?
Yeah.
I think that's a good segue into ebb and flow. Ebb and flow, when you first started this podcast, you hated the word, well, I shouldn't say it, that's such a strong word, but you were against the word millennial. And you were like, I don't want to be really tied down. We kind of started off with this Facebook debate about owning a home and things like that to this journey that you are on. So kind of tell us where you're at right now.
Yeah. I was definitely like not really into owning a home. I was more open to like wholesaling and maybe like owner financing one day. But I think with COVID, it let me know like maybe you should look into something that allows you to have more space, because as of now, I'm just in my place and I'm outgrowing it with all my plants. So, I mean, it's true. I'm outgrowing the reason why I'm looking for a bigger place is because of my plants. Yeah, absolutely. Like now I joined NACA, which for those of you guys who aren't familiar, it's the Neighborhood Assistance something. Corporation of America, Neighborhood Assistant Corporation of America. So basically what they do is it's like a zero, no money down, no like hard credit check. And they basically help you get qualified for different mortgages. And so I actually have worked with them a lot, and I just never even thought to join their program because I wasn't really looking for a place. But Mark, who was on our episode, he was on one of our episodes earlier this year, and he talked about how he
episode 12.
Yes,
go for
episode 12. He talked about how he used NACA in order to help him house hack. So I am currently in the program, and my hope is to get a duplex or a place that's large enough for me to house hack through NACA, which going through NACA, I feel like it's going to help me get qualified for more than I would if I were just going through like a traditional FHA.
Can you break down NACA for us and what the difference is between FHA and NACA?
So I don't know a ton about FHA, but I know FHA is an actual government program. So that is HUD's program for first-time home buyers. And it's just a way to help you get started on your journey to home ownership.
Right. And you don't have to be a first-time home buyer to take advantage of FHA. You can only have FHA one home at a time.
One home at a time. NACA's kind of similar. For them, it's no down payment, no closing costs, no fees. They don't go off of your credit score. They go off of your entire credit picture, and you get like a really, really good interest rate. The thing with NACA is it's actually a program, so you have to be a member, and their entire goal is to focus on revitalizing neighborhoods, which is something I'm very passionate about. And then once you're actually in the NACA program, they really protect their members. So that's actually how I found out about NACA when I was working for a bank and doing loss mitigation, and somebody called in about potentially going through foreclosure, and we gave them NACA as a resource to stop the foreclosure. So I'm I've always loved that aspect. Not that I'm hoping, I don't think I'm going to go on a foreclosure, but just knowing I have that resource is very comforting. But yeah.
No, I think that's key to utilize because, I had never heard of NACA or knew what it was, but it's also a HUD program. It's the largest HUD certified counseling agency. And there typically is no down payment, no closing costs. And like you said, you don't need perfect credit for it. So I think that, learning about these various programs in order to get in is just one of those things that we just aren't taught, that we don't know about. I literally have never heard of NACA until that episode 12.
Yeah, like the thing about NACA that I really like their history is they're based from this guy who went up against the banks to stop predatory lending back in the 80s. And so literally his entire purpose for starting NACA was to really organize homeowners in these neighborhoods that wouldn't normally have an advocate in these spaces. And so yeah, it's definitely something I actually have been recommending people go to NACA, but I just never took my own advice. And so kind of like to what you said before about like being on the podcast and learning from our guests and learning from ourselves, it's definitely time to, step into that space. And then also another thing that I've done is I enrolled in real estate courses to get my real estate license, which is again something I didn't see myself doing. I think I said I don't want to be a real estate agent. I'm pretty sure I said that. And it really just came from a place of like, well, why not? Like this, you don't have to go out and do volume to be a real estate agent, or, if you're licensed, that doesn't mean that you have to go out and show people homes every weekend. You can really be creative with how you use your real estate license. And so I decided to go ahead and pursue that as well.
Congrats to that.
Well, congratulations on that. I think you're right. You don't have to. There's so many different things that you can do. You said something offline, about your journey and why did you choose to do that? Do you remember what you said in regards to like real estate and how you feel about it now?
Yeah, like even though I've been like adjacent to real estate for years, like I always viewed it as very competitive. Like you hear about these highly competitive real estate deals and how competitive the real estate market is. And there's so many real estate agents out there, especially in Texas, North Texas to be exact. It's like, I don't feel like doing that. I'm already in sales. I'm already in a competitive space. Like I don't want more competition, but I think what this show has taught me, like being, a co-host on the show has been the biggest blessing because it showed me that it's not really about competition, it's about collaboration. And there's no limit to real estate, really. It's what you make it. And so, that's what one of the things I'm hoping to leverage is, the ability to collaborate with different people in the real estate realm. And just, hopefully me having this real estate license just makes that even easier and goes even smoother. Because right now when people come to me with real estate stuff, I tell them like what I know and what I've researched, but I always have to say, well, I'm not a real estate agent. So I have to send them off to someone else. So hopefully this helps.
I have to correct you though, because you are a wholesaler, right? You do wholesale. So you are a realtor without the license. But I think that,
yeah, that doesn't work. I actually hate that.
Doesn't work in the real world.
I hate that. I hate not feeling, I hate the real estate agent without the license, because like, I don't want any caveats behind it.
I feel that you don't want something so cachet and just
I
don't want that just sounds legitimate.
I don't want anybody to be, and that's just me. That's just a personal thing. Like I don't want anybody to be able to say I'm not qualified to do something.
Right.
So, and I know that's not where that comes from, but I know this is me, the millennial, heading another title. So go figure.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And I love that. And I think that you are going to kick butt just because of your background. You have a sales background already, which I think will come into play. And it's really about, anytime you decide to change careers, it's really about leveraging what you've done in the past. I think finding your purpose and being able to help and benefit people, right? And so you guys are already doing that. You practice that with your past flip, and not only just looking out for yourselves, but also how can you help somebody else? And if you're thinking about it like that, then I think that this is just, it's gonna just blossom. And I think about that with our previous guest, building a brand with Precious Boyd. She talked about that. She talked about going, you know, above and beyond, working in St. Louis and Dallas and going back and forth. So, you know, we can all, you know, myself included, you know, learn from these other agents, and exactly like this is, you know, a business, but we're also here to help. We're here to help people, and we have this particular expertise, and that license does give us a little bit of credit, a lot of credibility, especially if you are a realtor hanging your hat with an association. So kudos to you for that. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Check back in on that journey. So then, yeah, so with me, right? I guess I'm kind of next.
Your turn. Right?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Courtney.
You know,
update us, Oprah.
Oprah. Yikes. I don't know what to say with them. I'm Auntie Oprah. That's a blessing. I hope to get to Auntie Oprah level. Let me pause on that. So no, things have been going great, right? Things have been going great. I think with COVID, you never knew. And so many of our guests were just saying, hey, I'm more busy than I've ever been. Everything is just kind of come to fruition during this COVID. And there's been some blessings with COVID. I think you have to have somebody represent you, because you can't go to an open house. California is very much shut down. We're one of the few states that have not fully reopened yet. And you have to have someone and reach out to someone in order to go inside a home. And so that gives you an open door to that relationship. And so in that respects, you know, things have been really good. And I've gotten in touch with a lot of people, a lot of first-time home buyers. And I'm starting to see this trend real life. And it's been pretty eye-opening. Right now, I have a buyer in contract, and I have a seller that is selling right now. And the entire firm is just doing really, really well, EQ1. And so, you know, things are blossoming, and there's been a lot of learning curves and learning lessons. Like Kim said, each deal is different. So it's been good. It's been really good. So I think from that, one thing that I can probably kind of share, maybe from a buyer's perspective, of what, you know, some first-time home buyers are kind of like, what some of their questions are and things like that. And it's really about the close process and loans and things like that. So I'll give you some specifics. My buyer my buyer with FHA, and with FHA loans, they are scrutinized, and he did not notify the loan officer of this particular bank, and he wired his earnest money deposit from the bank that no one knew about. And so when it came time to get the title, they were like, hey, everything's great, except where did this money come from? Give it back. give the money back and put it back into this account, and then take the money from the account that we know about, and we can just keep this thing going. So the title company was really cool about it. Some people may raise a red flag. Some title companies say, hey, you know, I don't want to do this, you know, let's just call this off. But it didn't happen. We got really lucky with just a cool title person, and were able to get the seller to give the money back. So ask for a contingency, extension, and say, hey, by the way, can you give us our EMD back? We promise we'll give you some more. We'll give it to you again. So just the lesson in that is, don't make any sudden changes while you're in the loan process. Don't do anything. Don't buy a car. Don't buy furniture. Don't have any additional money come into your account that no one knows about. Don't go out and buy anything. Don't do anything until the loan closes. Don't buy anything. Don't do anything. So that's my lesson on the buy side. And then one for the sell side.
Wait, I have a comment on your buy side. Very
sure.
true, because when you have a large deposit go in, then you have to now claim or explain that large deposit, and it's more paperwork.
Absolutely.
So we had to do an addendum just that happened. So we had to do an addendum as to explain what the deposit was. And even though it was for my business, it still hit the accounts because they have access to all the accounts. So when it hit my business, they were like, oh, what is this? And I had to actually do a whole new addendum and sign new paperwork for that very reason. So yes, I thought it was only don't have money going out. I never realized that it was an issue with money coming in too. But nope, as soon as they hit, I get the call from Navy Federal, like, what's going on? Why did this money hit your account? So thank you for that, because I never even knew that.
Yes, you're being watched and you're being tracked. So yeah, and it's a weird thing, and the only way to avoid that is to pay cash. You know, no one's looking for you if you are paying cash for your house. You can do whatever you want to do. But as long as you're asking a bank to borrow money, they want to make sure that you're credible, right? So that's that. On the sell side, I think it's really important working with some sellers, and then kind of like you said, Kim, when you saw somebody, or Ebony, you saw somebody out, you know, kind of going through something they knew, and you just kind of had your ears to the street. So this one seller that I'm not in contract with yet, but I am preparing them. You have to prepare a home to sell. You do. And you really have to decide, am I going to take in this California market, where in this particular location, they could either sell the house for $1.2 million. They own it out free and clear, and sell it to an investor, and nobody will pay, you know, anywhere from 8 to 1.2. They've been living there for 30 something years, haven't done really any maintenance to the house. Or you could take that money, you know, take a loan out really, and do some improvements to the home and sell it for 1.6. You know, you really just have to decide, you know, what you're going to do. So we're really having some initial talks and some education just in regards to what the process is like when you sell a home. And the other seller that I have in contract, they had a previous realtor that was a family member, and he just put the home on the MLS. I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but they weren't really educated on what they needed to do in order to sell a home. So they've been there also 30 something years. It's been really emotional for them to haul things away, to get things cleaned out, and to actually prepare the home for staging and pictures, and have it done really professionally so that they can relocate. And so I educate people to decide what your budget is. If you're going to fix the house, that needs to be your first step. And if not, what do you want to walk away with before you sell? So it's been really interesting just meeting a different echelon of clients and different clientele, and being able to educate them, and really coming at it from a perspective of really being the expert. And it's been really nice to give people those nuggets and feedback. So that's what's been going on the real estate front. The Bay Area market's hot.
Love how like the home price is like 1.6. Like what? You know, like that's like you can get like a whole portfolio of houses here in Dallas for 1.6 million. Like if you do it right.
She casually just dropped that.
Yeah, just dropped it. It's just like market. Like knowing markets. I love it.
It's the market. It's really interesting out here, and they have those markets. You know, I'm in this Oakland market, which is not that. You know what I mean? But if you go across the street, because of gentrification, you know, in those forgotten neighborhoods. So, you know, I'm looking in those areas and working with those clients as well. And this is, you know, those forgotten neighbors. But there are people that only want to live in these neighborhoods. They don't want to move to the suburbs. They don't want to go there. They are comfortable, and they believe in the revitalization of it. So there's that part too, that aren't in the millions and want no parts of that. You know, want to rent out their home and accept that this is what comes with it. Yeah, so it's all good. So that's what's been going on. It's, you know, it's been good to just catch up and not have, I guess, kind of educate us, but let us educate the audience as well. And so with that, I wanted to ask you guys some special questions just about the episode, and kind of do my own version of rapid fire. Pew pew with the ladies. Yes. All right.
I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. Okay. So since you're nervous, Ebony, I want you to go first with these 3 questions. rapid fire. Number one, who is your most impactful guest that we've had on the show? Who impacted you most?
Everybody.
Yeah, I think everybody. I have chills.
No,
everybody.
You got to pick it. You have to pick a person. Yes,
just one. I have to say Portia Edmond. Like,
all right.
She just gathered my whole life. And just how she talked about time management and just the gems she shared about not being pressured to do volume as a wholesaler and just like, get your life, girl. Like, that was good. I'm gonna give a runner-up. I know you said one, but I give a runner-up. Benicia, who's right, she talked about luxury. I think I took Kim's, but it wasn't even the luxury real estate. It was just how she talked about being in alignment and being on the right path. Like, that was just timely. But that's powerful. Like asking who's your favorite child, or who's my favorite plant. Like, I love them all. I love everyone. And
I love all my kids, but I do have a favorite. No, I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. You and
yeah, one day I'll do a tour on house plants, on real women real estate, because your house is your sanctuary. So
there you go. So we're gonna stick with you. What are you listening to right now?
What do you mean as far as
music? What's the last thing you listened to? Rapid fire.
Gospel. I've been
gospel.
on gospel.
It's either gospel or trap.
It is. It's either gospel or Meg Thee Stallion. Honestly, it's either Kirk Franklin or Meg Thee Stallion at any given moment.
It's really been that kind of life during COVID. It really is. Yeah. Either I'm a hot girl or I'm Jesus. Jesus is
hot girl for Jesus. Really, I mean, that's me.
Hot girl, hot girl for Jesus. And Jesus appreciates it, I'm sure.
I hope my grandma's not listening.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
All right. Final question. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. What are you looking forward to doing most? What is your thing? Yeah.
Travel. I miss I have a crew that we travel. We go around the world, and we had our travel mapped out for this year. And I guess COVID was like, no, sis, you're not doing anything. You're staying home. But I want to get some more stamps on my passport. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, I feel like that's a broken record. So wait, let me do a runner-up for that too. The second thing that I'm looking forward to is seeing my grandma. My great grandma is 99, and
Aww.
She turned 99 this year, and I've not been able to see her since late last. Actually, I did go see her right before COVID in January, and I'm so glad I did. But I just want to go see her and hug her neck and tell her I love her.
That's awesome. I think that's a great want to do list bucket right now after COVID. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Kimberly Ray.
Government name.
I gotta go back like full flats. So tell me about your most impactful guest and why.
Well, Ebony took mine, but it was Benicia.
Just talk about why. She may have resonated with you on a different level.
Nope, she took my whole answer. It's
really?
Yeah, it's the alignment piece for me. I think that was major because she's doing so many things, and like she said, it's when I feel like that's been my 2020, when you're walking in alignment, things happen, because for so long I was in a stagnant position. I feel like in 2020, although it hasn't been a great year overall for the world, or for the US, I should say, but for my family, it's been really good. So with that being said, that made me, for me, I feel like I'm walking in my purpose and what I'm supposed to be. Losing a job, everyone's like, oh, I can't, I'm so sorry you lost your job. And I was like, probably the best thing that happened to me all year.
Yeah.
So, and then, and God just keeps opening doors for me. I just got a call Ashley today for another part of my business. So new doors keep opening, and I love it. So I feel like Benicia was the one that really, like, Portia was great, Benicia was great. Renikia was amazing. That is probably my up. Yep. Because of what she's doing for the community. But as far as being, doing financing, how many people we know that can get a hard money loan or get a loan from someone that looks like us? So those are my top 3 right now. They just don't have to be our last few, but I mean, all of our guests have been great. Those just hit. Benicia just hit for me. So.
I like that. So, and the last thing you listened to, Kim?
Big Sean.
Big Sean?
Yeah.
Does he have a new album out?
Yeah, he does. I didn't even know. Jasper was listening to it, but there's one song in particular I really like, and it's him and his girlfriend, but his new song on his new album. So Detroit too, but it's him, and then he has a song with Nipsey that's banging. So his actual newest album, I love the whole thing. So
it's been a shout out to
days.
Big Sean.
Yeah.
All right, and so since this last one here is a cliche, I'm gonna switch it up just for you, because I know how you are with your shows and stuff like that. What are you binge watching, and what's your show right now?
Ooh, P-Valley.
P-Valley.
Okay, P-Valley, and then this other show Jasper just put me on that's about the Karate Kid. It's so funny, y'all. Like it's on Netflix, but he just put me on and I binge watched that the other night. So between P-Valley and this new Cobra, it's called Cobra something. Anyway, Jasper just put me on it from somebody else, and it's actually funny as hell, and it's on Netflix. But me, I needed to laugh, and I need the ratchetness. So P-Valley for my ratchetness, and my laughter's coming from this new show that he's got me on. Cobra Kai. That's what it's called. Cobra Kai.
I just Googled it.
Yeah, it's so good, and it's produced by Will Smith. So,
okay,
yeah, it's pretty funny.
Support that.
Yeah,
I like it.
You would have said Lovecraft Country. Like everybody's watching Lovecraft.
I haven't watched it, so I couldn't say that.
Okay,
but P-Valley, I'm
was
up to date on that one.
Yeah, that's a good show.
I'm on strippers.
Oh, Kim,
that is something else.
Courtney.
Well,
fire. Nope. Rapid fire.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You're not about to. No.
Wait, what y'all got? What y'all got
for you? I'm gonna change it up.
Yep.
All right. Off the dome. What you got?
I'm gonna change it up. Courtney. Well, I still want to know what you're listening to. What is the last thing you listened to?
Lettucey.
Which Lettucey? Does she have new?
She has a brand new album out, and it's fire.
Who?
Okay.
Lettucey.
Oh, Lettucey. Okay.
And I don't typically listen to. I'm usually trapping. It's always a trap. But in this album, I love her. I love her message. I love this album. So I had to slide in her DMs and tell her this album is straight banger. Just no skips. It's just a good vibe. I really like it.
Listen to that. My second question.
Yeah.
Who do you think won between the Brandy and Monica verses?
Oh, that's a tough one. That really is. Man, it was so much weirdness going on inside of that it was really just difficult. So, there's levels to this. So I want to say just voice and just straight, saying, that's Monica all day. I think that's Monica. Monica is just for the people. She's for the culture. She's for the people. Her songs were not popish. They weren't mainstream. They were for us. And that's nothing to take away from Brandy, because we needed Moesha, and we needed that. We needed to have somebody in the front, in the spotlight, right? That had that came into everybody's homes on an everyday basis that looked like us. So we need that. That's not to take anything away from her. But specifically on this challenge, I just prefer to hear Monica's voice just a little bit more.
Okay. I'm with you.
That was tough.
Monica,
that was tough.
And my last question is, who is your favorite guest from this season so far?
I can't say favorite. I'll have to say the most impactful and just informative. And I think that really just made me, kind of just look at things differently, would probably have to be Chris Senegal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Chris?
He was a really good guest too.
He's good.
I mean, all our guests have been great.
He was the one that really just kind of made me think and kind of turn things on their head just a little bit, and just think about the fact that, you know, just having those three things, right? You need to have, you know, maybe you only have one of those three things: money or the team or the opportunity. You know, you only need to have one. You don't need to have all three. And you kind of know that, but just the way he, you know, educated us and reiterated that was really powerful.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then Q Nicole, just because my runner-up, just because she spoke with she was just fearless. The way she spoke under the cannabis industry and why that was important to her, and her journey and her brother being incarcerated because of it, and how it was so important to turn that industry on its rear head and just take it on, and just using her money from the flips to do that. I think just she had no fear. I mean, she spoke about everything just unapologetically, fearless. And I just said to myself, well, I really want that. I want to walk around with just being my most authentic, true, and lay it all out there, even in the sense of a sales format, even though I'm selling, and in air quotes, I'm selling something to you. Just the way that she came across, I hope that I can just have a little bit of that. Yeah.
I love it. Again, it's a hard answer, question to answer, but man, this has been just really a blessing. So thank you, Courtney, because this whole thing was your idea. This is your baby.
It's everyone's baby. We've all made this come together, and I think
it's your
that
brainchild.
We couldn't have did it without, I think, each of us having our own niche.
Yeah. I mean, it superseded anything I've ever thought about what we were going to do with this podcast so far. So,
yeah. And shout out to our amazing guest. And then you, Ebony, for, you know, educating me on the book. I've always been a book reader, but I've definitely picked it up during COVID. Picked it up. And I'm doing one of Derek's books right now, Think and Grow Rich, but a Black choice. I'm reading that right now. And so that's been really good. Yes. Awesome. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you. And thank you, Kim.
Yes.
And thank me, Ebony, for showing up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shout out to Slash. We didn't even get on Slash and all of her businesses, Catch, and everything that she has going on, but shout out to Slash.
I love you guys. I love y'all.
We'll see you guys next week.
All right, awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.